iTorial, Intelligent Tutorials. CentOS6, File System Tour. This is a beginner tutorial that explores the Linux file system with the commands we just learned in the Commands, ls, File, and Less tutorial series. Follow these steps in order to go into a directory found on the Linux system. Step 1. cd into a given directory. Step 2. List the directory contents with the ls -l command. If you see an interesting file, determine its contents with the file command. If it looks as if it might be text, try viewing it with the less command. As we browse around, don't be afraid to look at stuff. Regular users are largely prohibited from messing things up. That's why we're not logged in as the root user. That's the system administrator's job. If a command complains about something, just move on to something else. Spend some time looking around. The system is yours to explore. Here is a list of directories found on the Linux system. At any time, feel free to pause this tutorial if you want to take a closer look at some of these directories and files. /enter, the root directory where everything begins. /bin, contains binaries, otherwise known as programs, that must be present for the system to boot and run. /boot, enter, contains the Linux kernel, initial RAM disk image, for drivers needed at boot time, and the bootloader. Interesting files in this directory: /boot, /grub, /grub.conf, or menu.lst, which are used to configure the bootloader. Also, /boot, /vmlinuz, which is the Linux kernel. /dev, enter. This is a special directory that contains device nodes. Everything is a file also applies to devices. Here is where the kernel maintains a list of all devices it understands. /etc, enter. The /etc directory contains all the system-wide configuration files. It also contains a collection of shell scripts that start each of the system services at boot time. Everything in this directory should be readable text. Interesting files here are, while everything in the /etc is interesting, here are some of the really cool files. /etc /crontab. This is a file that defines when automated jobs will run. Also, /etc /fstab. This is for a table of storage devices and their associated mount points. /home. In normal configurations, each user is given a directory in the /home. Ordinary users can write files only in their home directories. This limitation protects the system from unwanted user activity. /lib contains shared library files used by the core system programs. These are similar to DLLs in Windows. /lost plus found. Each formatted partition or device using a Linux file system, such as ext3, will have this directory. It is used in the case of a partial recovery from a file system corruption event. Unless something really bad has happened to your system, this directory will remain empty. /media. On modern Linux systems, the /media directory will contain the mount points for removable media such as USB drives, CD-ROMs, and etc. that are mounted automatically at insertion. /MNT. On older Linux systems, the /MNT directory contains mount points for removable devices that have been mounted manually. /OPT. The /OPT directory is used to install optional software. This is mainly used to hold commercial software products that may be installed on your system. /PROC. The /PROC directory is special. It's not a real file system in the sense of files stored on your hard drive. Rather, it is a virtual file system maintained by the Linux kernel. The files it contains are snapshots into the kernel itself. The files are readable and will give you a picture of how the kernel sees your computer. /root. This is the home directory for the root account. /sbin. This directory contains system binaries. These are programs that perform vital system tasks that are generally reserved for the super user. /TMP. The /TMP directory is intended for storage of temporary, transient files created by various programs. Some configurations cause this directory to be emptied each time the system reboots. /USR. The /USR directory tree is likely the largest one on the Linux system. It contains all programs and support files used by regular users. /USR/bin. The /USR/bin contains the executable programs installed by your Linux distribution. It is not uncommon for this directory to hold thousands of programs. /USR/lib. The shared libraries for the programs in the /USR/bin. /USR/local. The /USR/local tree is where programs that are not included in your distribution but are intended for system-wide use are installed. Programs compiled from source code are normally installed in the /USR/local/bin. On a newly installed Linux system, this tree exists, but it is emptied until the system administrator puts something in it. /USR/sbin contains more system administration programs. /USR/share. /USR/share contains all the shared data used by the programs in the /USR/bin folder. This includes things like default configuration files, icons, screen backgrounds, sound, files, and other. /USR/share/doc. Most packages installed on the system will include some kind of documentation. In the /USR/share/doc, we will find documentation files organized by package. Once again, feel free to go back through this directory list and try out the ls command, the file command, and the less command until you're very familiar with all three. Alright, that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and we hope you come back to watch another iTorial tutorial sometime soon.